We are ready to gather our side panel tiers. I'm sewing the Marcel mini dress, which is view B, and the side panels have 3 different tiers. There's no gathering on tier 1, so we're going to put this one aside, these pieces aside. So before I start gathering, I went ahead and added a different color thread to my bobbin. I added red here. It's just going to help me indicate which stitch line is the bobbin thread when I'm pulling it to gather later. You also want to make sure that your machine is set to your longest possible stitch length. On my machine it's 6, and that's going to help you give you a long basting stitch that will allow you to gather. So for tier 2, you're going to find the top edge, which is the edge that has 1 single notch in the middle, and you're going to sew 2 parallel stitch lines at the top. The first line is going to be 1/4 inch away from the cut edge, and then the second line will be 1/2 inch. This allows our sewing stitch line to be at 3/8 right in the middle, and I think those 2 lines are really helpful to control your gathers. So we're going to get started and gather the top edge of tier 2. Make sure you pull and give yourself enough length. That was our first stitch line at 1/4 inch, and I'm going to go back and add another base stitch line at 1/2 inch. You just want to make sure you're never crossing over either of those lines. So I finished one, I'm going to go on to the second one. Since my machine is already set up to be, to gather with the stitch length, I'm going to go ahead and gather the top edge of my tier 3 panel. So here I have my tier 2 panels, and in the back there I have my tier 3 panels that have all been gathered at the top. Now what I want to do is pull the bobbin thread. You can pull the bobbin thread or the top thread, you just don't want to pull both, so I just always stick with the bobbin. So here you can see they're my red threads. Using a pin to kind of grab them. And I like to pull the gathering pretty tight. Pull from one end and then I go to the other side. So you can see here I've pulled my threads, my bobbin threads, pretty tight to make the gathers, and then I've gone and pressed in these gathers. Don't skip this step. I really feel like it makes attaching the gathering tiers so much easier. We are ready to sew the side panel tiers together. So starting at the top, this is tier 1. We're going to attach the bottom of tier 1 to the top of tier 2. So with right sides together, I flip the tier 1 down and find the center notch. I like to add 1 pin in the center, flip over the gathered panel, tier 2, and then pull out the edge and match to this the side. Doing the same for the other side. Now I'm ready to take it over to the sewing machine and attach it at 3/8 inch. So as a reminder, I've made sure I switch my stitch length back to just a regular stitch length. I like to use my finger to just adjust the gathers to make sure they're even in between my pins. Now that I've attached tier 1 to tier 2 for both sides, I'm going to go over and finish the top edge with an overlock and press the seam allowance up towards tier 1. I have finished the seam, removed any visible basting stitches, and then pressed the seam allowance up towards tier 1. Now we're ready to attach tier 3 to tier 2. Going forward, tier 3, 4, and 5 all have 3 notches to help you space out your gathers. So again, we're going to do the same. right sides together and adding pins first to where we have notches. As the tiers get longer, you may find that you want to add additional pins in between the notches as well. Now you're ready to attach tier 2 to tier 3. Now that we've attached tier 2 to tier 3, we're going to finish the seam like we did before and press the seam allowance up.